There are few brands in history that share the rarefied air of becoming synonymous with their category. In the world of combat sports, one name reigns supreme: the UFC. But behind the glitz, glamour, and blood-soaked octagon lies a come-up story against all odds. From run-ins with the mob and over $40 million debts to global icon and multi-billion-dollar empire, this is the rise of Dana White and the UFC. Dana Frederick White Jr. was born July 28, 1969, in Manchester, Connecticut. Far from the bright lights and roaring crowds he orchestrates today, Dana's early life was one of obscurity and humble beginnings. With a family torn apart by divorce and raised by a single mom, Dana's childhood was turbulent and saw him bounce between Massachusetts and Las Vegas as his mom searched for better opportunities as a nurse. Dana's adolescent life was a period of self-discovery and a growing passion for combat sports, particularly boxing. From an early age, he was enchanted by the visceral energy of combat, its dance between skill and danger. As he grew older, Dana began distancing himself from the traditional education system, finding it stifling and unengaging. He enrolled in college twice, at Quincy College and UMass Boston, but dropped out on both occasions as the conventional education system failed to hold his attention. Out of school, Dana worked a variety of odd jobs, from street paver to bouncer, and even a bellman at the Boston Harbor Hotel. It seemed like Dana was destined to become a statistic, until one day he made a decision.
The Boston Harbor Hotel, I was a bellman in there. I was 19 years old. I made good money. You know, there's some guys that get those jobs, and those are the type of jobs they you know, they're lifers. They want those jobs forever. And it's a good job. It's not a bad job. It just wasn't for me. And I was literally standing in the lobby one day, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? What am I doing here? This isn't me. This isn't what I want. And I walked out the front door, and one of my good friends, he's still one of my good friends today, who was the doorman, says, what are you doing? I said, I'm quitting. And he's like, what? What are you going to do? I said, I want to be in the fight business.
Shedding the shackles of his menial jobs, Dana dove headfirst into the fight game. He started as a boxercise coach, training and eventually managing fighters on the side. He was picking up steam and establishing a name for himself when life threw a curveball. A menacing run-in with local mob boss Whitey Bulger forced him to make a life-altering decision.
So these guys rolled up on me one day at the gym and basically told me that I owed them money. I didn't have it. And they said, get it from your fucking girlfriend. So I just sort of blew it off and, you know, lived my life, was doing my thing. And then, long story short, one day I got a phone call at my house, and they're basically like, you owe some money by tomorrow, 1 o'clock. I said, or what? Are you going to find out? So I literally hung up the phone.
Hello,
picked it back up,
Delta, you got a flight.
Exactly what I did. I hung up, picked it back up, and got a one-way flight to Vegas.
Deterred but not derailed, Dana kept up his momentum and continued his focus on the fight game in Vegas. It was during this time that fate smiled on him, reuniting him with two childhood friends, Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta. The Fertitta brothers, Lorenzo and Frank, came from a well-established family in Las Vegas. Their father, Frank Fertitta Jr., was a pioneer in the casino industry, having founded Station Casinos in 1976. The brothers grew up in a business-oriented environment and were well-educated, with Lorenzo Fertitta earning an MBA from the Stern School of Business at New York University. This reunion would prove to be fateful for a struggling fight promotion on the brink of bankruptcy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the contestants for the first match of tonight's Ultimate Fighting Championship.
The UFC was conceived in 1993, a brainchild of Art Davie and Rorian Gracie, with a simple yet brutal premise. What was the most effective martial art in a real fight scenario? It was raw, it was visceral, and it was unlike anything the world had seen before. However, despite an initial burst of success, its lack of rules and the violent nature of the sport led to a backlash, pushing it to the edge of bankruptcy. Fortunately for them, an enterprising Dana discovered the state of the struggling business and saw an opportunity. He approached the Fertitta brothers, and together they decided to acquire the UFC for $2 million in 2001, with White placed as the president of the new company. But the path to glory was no cakewalk. The previous owners had sold nearly all the assets to cover debts, including rights to DVDs, video games, and even the domain UFC.com, which was taken by a company named User Friendly Computers. Fun fact, they ended up paying over 6 figures to get it back later. Oof. All Dana and the Fertitta brothers effectively got was the brand name and a beat-up old octagon. It was up to them to rebuild from the ground up. For years, they bled money, going reportedly $44 million in debt, backed largely by the Fertitta brothers. Things were really bad and trending worse, and it came to a point where the brothers considered pulling the plug to stop the hemorrhaging. But in the true fighting spirit, they decided to gamble on one last-ditch effort to turn the business around. Reality shows were all the rage in the 2000s, which inspired the team with the idea for the Ultimate Fighter, or TUF, a reality TV show where aspiring mixed martial artists compete for a coveted contract with the UFC. Contestants are divided into two teams, each mentored by an acclaimed UFC fighter, and undergo rigorous training while living together in a house, cut off from the outside world. They face off in elimination bouts, with the drama in the house and the rivalry between teams adding layers of intrigue. The competition culminates in a live finale where the last two standing fight for a life-changing UFC contract. It was a novel concept that promised to blend the intensity and excitement of mixed martial arts with the interpersonal drama and narrative arcs common to reality TV, making it a compelling way to break into mainstream viewership. The only problem? No network wanted to air it. Due to the controversial nature of mixed martial arts at the time, networks did not want to take the risk. Eventually, they discovered and approached Spike TV, a new network targeting a male demographic, making it a potentially good fit for TUF. Initially, Spike TV was also hesitant, but in a bold move, Dana and the brothers offered to cover the production costs of the show, essentially giving the content to Spike TV for free. This significantly reduced the financial risk for Spike TV and made the deal much more attractive. This arrangement was a huge gamble for Dana White and the brothers, as they were investing their own money without any guarantee of return. Fortunately, the gambit paid off. The Ultimate Fighter was a breakout hit and marked the key turning point in the fortunes of the company. The success of TUF brought mainstream attention to the UFC, helping to shed the negative image that had plagued it in the past. The dramatic finale of TUF Season 1, featuring a fight between Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar, is often credited with bringing a significant number of new fans to the sport. Following the success of TUF, the UFC secured more favorable television deals, including continued partnerships with Spike TV, and later, a significant deal with Fox Sports in 2011, which was worth around $100 million per year. As its success grew, the UFC began acquiring rival promotions to consolidate its position in the MMA market. In 2007, it acquired Pride Fighting Championships, a popular Japanese MMA organization. In 2011, it acquired Strikeforce, another major MMA promotion. These acquisitions helped eliminate competition and add fuel to their momentum. Moving quickly, they began hosting events outside the United States, expanding its reach into countries like the UK, Canada, Brazil, and Australia. This international expansion helped grow its global fan base and blow open new revenue streams. They introduced new weight classes and began promoting female fighters, which helped diversify its roster and appeal to a broader audience. The emergence of high-profile fighters like Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, and others brought in huge pay-per-view numbers and elevated the status of the UFC in the mainstream sports world. With dominance growing, the UFC accelerated on all fronts, attracting more high-profile sponsorships, expanding its merchandising efforts, embracing digital platforms, and launching its own subscription service, UFC Fight Pass. They also worked to improve fighter safety and introduced stricter anti-doping measures through a partnership with the United States Anti-Doping Agency, improving its image, legitimacy, and longevity. In 2016, the UFC was sold to WME-IMG, now Endeavor, for around $4 billion, marking the largest sale in the history of professional sports at that time, and making Dana and all early believers a lot of f***ing money. Today, despite accumulating an estimated net worth of $500 million, Dana still actively leads the UFC towards continued industry domination, accelerating international expansion, securing new broadcast and sponsorship deals, enhancing its digital presence, acquiring new talent, navigating curveballs like the 2020 pandemic, and further cementing the brand as synonymous with MMA itself. The journey of Dana White and the UFC is a testament to what vision, grit, and a true fighting spirit can achieve. From the brink of bankruptcy to a multi-billion-dollar empire, the saga of Dana White and the UFC is nothing short of legendary.